Hi, everybody. This is nadyalutz, and welcome to Quantum Toolbox. We're going to be talking about how to reduce allergens, intolerances, and therefore change your histamine reactions, which is kind of a big deal this time of year and all the time, actually. Disclaimer, this is not medical advice. Anything I say or anything on this presentation, it's just information, educational purposes only. If you have any questions about anything, obviously, you're going to contact your healthcare provider. And if it's an extreme allergy, obviously, you're going to contact your health regarding right away, right? Okay, so our thing we talk about now is quantum tools. What are quantum tools? They're anything that allows the body to optimize and heal itself. I find that a lot of us have so many different devices and things that we use, and when we stack them, we can have a greater impact. So that's what this kind of series is talking about. It'll allow us to obtain more information so we can make lifestyle changes to improve our health, because it's not enough just to have these fancy tools. A lot of times we have to change our lifestyles as well. So it'll kind of help the energy imbalance in the human body. So why allergies and histamines? Why are we talking about this today? Allergies and also intolerances, we'll get in the difference between those two, create a lot of inflammation in our brain and our whole body. It's really difficult for our body to heal when we have inflammation. So we're going to kind of dive down to some root causes and some various things that can cause this inflammation so that we can make lifestyle changes. A lot of this inflammation actually happens in the brain and the cranial nerves and all the different sections of the brain. And then that leads to brain fog, and it leads to us making some poor judgment decisions, and our health kind of takes a little bit of a dive. It affects all of our cranial nerves, which affects everything from smelling to walking, talking, just how we feel, whether we're in fight or flight or whether we're in rest and digest. So it's important for us to distinguish what an intolerance is versus an allergy, right? When I was really sick and had chronic Lyme, I could eat very little things without having extreme reactions. My eyes would get really puffy and red. I would have a skin rash all over my face, all over my body. But my first reaction was, this was way back in like 95, right? So I went to a dermatologist, had an allergy test, and like, you don't have any allergies. Well, at the time, I didn't know that the only thing that they're doing the skin prick test, and they're testing the way your skin reacts to those allergens, right? They're not testing the way your body reacts to the allergens. So after doing a little bit of research and education, I realized there's a difference, right? We can be intolerant to something and not have a severe allergy, right? We think of allergy as something like peanut allergy. It can be life-changing, right? You would have to rush to the ER. Or it could be a bee sting or something like that. That's what we think of allergy. But it's also, we have environmental issues, especially now in the fall and the spring, right? We're getting congestion in our eyes and our throat, and everything's just a little itchy and watery. That's also considered an allergy. An intolerance is more challenging to diagnose because there's not a one-to-one correlation. I don't eat an apple and then all of a sudden I have IBS. Those symptoms of an intolerance usually occur 48 hours later. So it's difficult for our brains to put an idea of what we're intolerant to. So it's important that we identify our intolerances to food and also sometimes our environment and toxins. Now, there is a thing called an ALCAT test. That's what I did in the beginning because I didn't know about frequency scans. They took blood. It wasn't that much blood, but they tested all sorts of things from food additives to colors to chemicals. It was over $900, and it took about 5 to 7 days for it to come back. So by the time I actually got my results back, it was already a little late. It was outdated information, but that ALCAT test is still out there. What I like to do now is use a bioresonance scan. It identifies so many different types of intolerances, and I like that you can do it daily, because what I find is that people's intolerances really change from day to day. So for $149 a month, you can run our food sensitivity test every single day. And not only does it identify it, but it will optimize the things as well slowly. It's not like it'll change it 100%, but slowly it'll optimize things over time. So I'm going to show you a little bit more about the bioresonance. This is one of the food panels that are diagnosed here. Not diagnosed, it's not a medical device. I can't say diagnosed, but food panels that come up. And there are two buttons I press, scan and optimize. The gray columns are the first one, that's before optimization. And then it sends 180-degree resonance in to try to optimize as many things as possible. So we kind of pay attention to the double reds on this. You can see fig was a double red. And then the things that don't get optimized are apricots, bananas, honeydew melon, and kiwi. Most people wouldn't have any idea if they were intolerant to these things because we think of these things as healthy, right? Who would not think of a banana as healthy, right? Let me get out of this so I can go this one, or else it'll go the other way. We have grains. Grains is a big issue for a lot of people. In this case, the double red was yeast, baker's yeast. And all of these other grains became optimized. So indicating that either they don't have a lot of those things, or possibly that it's just a frequency of it being evaluated in there. But when you see this many grains, even in the gray column, being identified, gluten, corn, millet, rye, bran, I would say 85 to 95% of the people that I work with have problems with grains, because it's just not our grandparents' grains anymore, right? There are all sorts of pesticides, GMO products that are being in there. Corn doesn't even digest in our system, and corn is cross-contaminating with a lot of things. When I go to Europe, I have no problem with grains whatsoever. I can have bread, I can have pasta. It just doesn't affect me because they're using the heirloom grains that our grandparents did. Legumes is also another big issue for people. When these are identified, I suggest that people sprout their legumes before doing it, because then it takes the coating outside of the legumes that cause inflammation. It reduces that, and it just makes it more digestible. It identifies all sorts of veggies. Again, most people don't think vegetables can cause an intolerance, but yet they can. So there are a few pages of that. Dairy is a big thing because, again, we have pesticides, we have GMO, we have most of our dairy cows eating corn, right? Again, corn, our body cannot digest corn. It causes a lot of inflammation. So that alone causes a lot of issues for dairy. And also dairy is considered, it breaks down to a sugar, right? So if your digestive system is having problems digesting sugar, then dairy will be an issue. Spices. Sometimes when this comes up, it actually means that it's, so let me back up. A red, when it's on this bioresonance stand, can mean a number of different things. It could mean, one, you're intolerant to it. It could mean that you had, let's just say, this identified black tea. Maybe you had black tea recently and there was mold in it and you didn't even know it, right? It was in the leaves. It could be that. It could be something that's also inherited. We can inherit intolerance to foods just like we can the propensity to get heart disease and things like that. And here's some more veggies, and then eggs and gelatin also are identified here. So lots of things that are identified in the food panel. I love it that you can do it every single day, and it just works really well. All right, next slide. So what do we do with all this information, right? We can go, I like to have, if people are having a lot of inflammation, I have them go on an elimination diet. There are two different ways to do it. You could eliminate the double reds. And let's say in that dairy column, we saw lots of reds. They could eliminate dairy for, it's a phase 1. Most people, it's about 4 weeks roughly. And then you reintroduce the foods one by one. So for instance, when I was really intolerant to a lot of things, it was healthy things. It was mangoes and avocados and all nightshades. So salsa was out, right? And so and shellfish. So when I would go to the beach, I'd have a shrimp taco. And so that had salsa on and everything. So my face just turned bright red. So I had to give up everything that I was intolerant to for 4 weeks. And then I added one thing back in. I wouldn't go ahead and add in a shrimp taco with salsa all at once, right? You would just say, add in one thing, perhaps just tomatoes for a few days and see how you react to that. And this column here on the right, it's the easy elimination diet. It lays it out really, really well for you. So in phase 1, day 1 to 35, you're going to be taking out everything. And when you reintroduce it, you'll be introducing dairy first for day 22 to 24, and then dairy and gluten, 25 to 77, 30 to 32, you add soy in. Most people actually don't do well with soy, regardless. And then 33 to 35, you'd add in eggs. So it lays out how you would reintroduce this really nicely. It's kind of easy to follow. And then you also want to keep in mind, if you went to, I didn't mention it, but with the allergy elimination diet, once you get rid of everything for a decent amount of time, 3 to 4 weeks, then when you reintroduce that, let's say dairy, let's say you had some cheese, you're going to feel the effects immediately because your body doesn't have this low level inflammation. So you won't identify it until like 48 hours later. So you'll know right away. If you introduce some goat cheese and you have a flare up right away, you know, you need to keep that out for a little bit longer. But a lot of times when you take things out and you reintroduce them one at a time, then you're able to go back to eating them in moderation. So it's not a long-term thing. Now, when things get really bad, there's something called mast cell activation syndrome. If we ignore these intolerances for too long, it becomes very, very severe. People can develop asthma, food allergies, really bad dermatitis, bacterial fungal infections. They can even be diagnosed with MS and cancer. And it's basically your body is just attacking itself when we ignore this for a long enough time. So it is important to identify these intolerances and kind of deal with them rather than just ignore them. Now, we also have to talk about the MTHFR gene. This is genetic, and it increases our chances of intolerances and allergies. Approximately 30 to 40% of people have one or both genetic modifications of the MTHFR gene, but I have both. We have problems digesting methylated foods, right? So you want to really avoid all nightshades whatsoever. And after you get rid of them all, you would only eat one, like I told you. Salsa is deadly, right? Because it has peppers and tomatoes, and those two together, lots of nightshades in there. Eggplant's also a nightshade, and potatoes as well. And people with MTHFR gene also have difficulty with gluten, dairy, and sugar. This bioresonance scan identifies if you have the gene as well. I find this gene comes and goes. So even though I have both variants there, when I'm having a good day, my inflammation is low, my scan will be green. If I wake up and I have like arthritis-like symptoms in my joints, my scan will be red. So it does come and go. Okay, with intolerances and allergies, it's kind of like, this says managing MCAS, but this is just, you can replace that with allergies and intolerances. Imagine you have a water bucket, right? This is your threat bucket. You're trying to manage the water levels. Things that are going to increase that water level so it overflows are things like eating high histimating foods and drinks. Alcohol also causes a lot of histamine as well. Shellfish, fermented foods. And, you know, a lot of people think sauerkraut and kombucha are fabulous for the gut. They are if your digestive system is working well. If it's not working well, it's going to create a little paradise in there for all the viruses and bacteria and everything, because they're just going to be getting drunk in there, right? So you want to avoid probiotics at first until your gut's working. You want to avoid sauerkraut and kombucha, aged cheese, charcuterie, cured meats, all those things. Will increase your water levels. Spinach, tomatoes, strawberries, citrus fruits, alcohol, chocolate, avocados, and even all pitted fruits. And also with pitted things, you want to be careful. If we think of seasonal allergies, right? If someone has really bad allergies in the fall, and then they're eating an apple a day, which comes from a tree, which we know you're already having problems with trees, what do you think that's going to do to your inflammation? It's going to increase it, right? So you have to be careful of tree fruits in the fall and citrus fruits in the spring if you have seasonal allergies. Most people don't think about that. Certain medications, most opiates, beta blockers, anything that ends with a CIN, a myosin, will most likely increase histamines and increase intolerances. All food dyes, bees, pollen, dust mites, all the traditional things that causes IgE reactions, pets, dander, temperature changes. A lot of people, the extreme hot and the extreme cold, people that have intolerances don't do well. And for a lot of people who have severe ones, fragrances are really, really triggers for people, right? If you're around someone that has a lot of perfume, or you walk into a house and they have one of the, not a natural diffuser like essential oils, but one of the diffusers you plug in, a chemical thing. Yeah, I can't be in a hotel that has those things running all the time. My eyes water. I just feel terrible. Smoke is often a big thing that increases things. Viruses, big time, right? Mono, Epstein-Barr, all the old viruses that have been reactivated with COVID. That is really increasing water in our bucket. And then also for some people that have extreme histamine issues, vibration and sunlight actually increase, believe it or not. What's considered good for some people isn't so great for other people. So things that are going to lower our levels in our, we'll talk about a lot, but here are some of them on here. Stabilizers like quercetin, luteolin, and ketofen. Vitamin C is great, but make sure you get ester C or a non-citrus source of vitamin C, or you can use camu camu. Antihistamines are good, but it's not good to be on antihistamines long-term because that really affects your brain. They found studies that people who take histamines every single day, I'm talking like a Claritin D or a Zyrtec type histamine, not a natural one, they're much more likely to have neurodegenerative diseases. So you wouldn't want to be on that long-term. DAO enzyme is amazing for lowering our threat level. You want to take that 10 to 20 minutes before meals. Same with hydrochloric acid or other digestive acid enzymes. It'll help your gut really digest things, and so you can absorb the minerals that you need and the vitamins you need. Once you're pooping after every single meal, then you can add in a probiotic, but you want to make sure that you get some histamine reducing strains of probiotics. Not all probiotics will be great for someone who has high histamine levels, and there'll be another chart talking about that. Lowering stress is really, really important, and sleeping well. There's a really big emotional component to histamines and allergies. If we take an extreme example where it's difficult to breathe, asthma and things like that, that's a big threat to the brain. So it creates anxiety and stress and even terror and fear that you won't be able to breathe, right? So managing stress, doing Tai Chi, meditation, really good sleep hygiene. You want to get a nice sleep. You want to avoid EMFs. And also environmental triggers. You want to avoid those like pollen, mold, insect bites, and hot and cold weather. You want to do products without dyes or fragrances. And then you want to follow like a low histamine diet. Or you can do an AIP diet or low leptin. You kind of have to find which is best for you. And, once you've done the initial like 3-month changing your diet, finding out what you're intolerant to, then you can, if you're in a good place, you can usually go to like a 90-10 rule, right? Where you stay away from those triggers 90% of the time, but you're out at a restaurant and you have a little bit here and there. You live your life once you've identified it and you're able to monitor it. Acupuncture is fabulous for reducing your allergy threat, and it works great in place of antihistamines, because we talked about how long-term antihistamines are not good, right? Here are some points that you can refer to. You can massage the areas. If you are having a lot of sinus issues, you can actually drag the areas kind of down. You want to get all of the mucus away from your cranial nerves here, down your throat, into your armpits, and you want them circulating, right? So you can use acupressure. If you have an acupuncturist, you can go to an acupuncturist. You can use acupuncture patches, and they're just fabulous. You can just take these little patches and you can put them on where they're indicating, and it will reduce your threats. And what I like to do is I use my terahertz wand a lot for allergies. It's fabulous. It penetrates 7 to 12 inches. And you can just simply close your eyes and wand around your eyes. You can do eyes, ears, nose, and throat, right up the nose, hits your brain stem. And then in the photo, when you see it's going up and down the spine, you can see the chart over here, and it shows how all the nerves are connected to your spine and all the organs. So it's nice because it brings everything online at once. Now, essential oils are fabulous. We have lavender oil, that's a natural antihistamine. Peppermint oil can help with unclogging the sinuses. You want to make sure that you get really good quality, therapeutic grade essential oils. Holy basil is really good. It has some antimicrobial properties, and it also helps with some allergens. Eucalyptus, most people think of that, right? We have, it just opens up our whole system, eucalyptus. I like to do like a steam, put my head over a steam and then smell eucalyptus or a steam shower. Lemon also is a great natural antihistamine. Now, if we can jump back to our bioresonance scan, you can also, if let's just say you're having itchy eyes, right? I can scan just the eyes and optimize the eyes or the ears or the digestive system, whatever. You can dive down into wherever you're feeling the symptoms and optimize those areas. So that's really, really nice. And you can also identify, you can see here, there are a lot of reds and oranges. So I would spend extra time on my left and my right eye when I was wanding. And while I'm doing that, I might actually get my eucalyptus and smell while I'm doing it, right? I like to combine different techniques so the brain pays attention. Here are some other natural things that you can take to help with histamine intolerance. You have CoQ10, so many different NIH studies on this. It significantly reduces the IgE histamine response. Magnesium is really, really nice with mast cell and histamine. It supports those DAO enzymes, and it reduces histidine, which is an amino acid that gets converted to histamine. So magnesium is fabulous. Vitamin C we talked about, just make sure it's a non-citrus brand. You can do a zinc chelator. Again, lots of studies on that. It helps with mast cell and all histamine, and it helps with just any type of thing, eyes, ears, nose, and throat. Apple cider vinegar has some interesting studies out on that. It lowers some histamine. And then we talked about quercetin. That's available as a supplement in a natural food store. But you can also increase different things to get natural quercetin, like dill, fennel leaves, onions, oregano, chili peppers. But watch out if you have that MTHFR gene. Cranberry, blueberry, spinach, kale, cherries, lettuce, and asparagus.
That's 26 years old now. She actually joined me. She's going to be doing insurance with me, and I told her,
can someone mute, please?
You have the story of your mom. She lived that life.
Can someone mute? Okay. Bromelain is fabulous. Most people throw out the core of the pineapple, but that is really, really good. So after you core your pineapple, you'll be left right in that core. It's kind of thick. I don't mind chewing on it, but what I usually do is I chop it up into quarter-inch, half-an-inch slices. I throw them in the freezer, and then we put them in with our smoothies, because don't throw that away. That has amazing properties, has a great prolytic enzymes. It helps in the digestion, and it helps reduce all your histamine. So after you're pooping, after every big meal, then you can add probiotics in, right? We talked about that. Don't add them in right off the bat. I know they're great for a lot of people, but they're not great if you have gassy things and you're not pooping regularly, okay? These are the brands that are been shown to be really good to reduce bacteria and yeast and help with the immune system and allergies. And then we have stinging nettles. That's a shrub, and it's fabulous. You can have tea, or they make them in little capsules. Great for allergies. And you have butterbur as well. It's from Europe, and lots of studies on that. It helps with allergies, and they actually had placebo effects and fabulous results. Something we don't think about that often. This is another bioresonance scan image. Omega-3s are critical when you're having an allergic response because it coats your cranial nerves and it helps your brain and it reduces your inflammation. So you want to make sure that you're getting a decent amount of omega-3s when you're having these responses. So after you've identified all this and you kind of find different symptoms you have, we can then create a playlist and send frequencies to the body. So if it's just straight up allergies, I might play this: sinus pressure, sinus disorders, sinusitis, smell none, sinus plus allergies, bromium, allergies, pollen, dust, natrium, gelsemium, and apis mellifica. It can just be sent remotely. It doesn't have to, you don't have to be in person. If one of the root causes was a lot of brain fog, I might run a detox like this, right? I do a cerebral detox, bacteria detox, chem, virus detox. Ultimate Emotions is all the homeopathics, and your body's only going to absorb what you need. And then we have a cerebral spinal problems, clean blood's plasma, because all those viruses and bacteria, they make our blood really sticky. So it's a nice one. Nerve stimulator, accelerated memory, accelerated learning, and super memory. When I'm running this, I like to stack things, right? So I might do up my nose to activate my brainstem. And then I might smell my eucalyptus or whatever oil you like. And then I might wand my ears, eyes, and throat as well, right? So we have a lot going into the body just to kind of make your brain pay attention to everything. Now, a lot of people have histamine issues. It's one extreme or the other. You either have diarrhea or you have constipation. There's very little in between. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's one or the other. So here's a diarrhea list that I like to run if it's just running right through you and you're not absorbing the minerals. And then the flip side, if it's constipation, you're still not absorbing the minerals because it's sitting in there and it's fermenting, and it's like it's kind of like you're drinking alcohol nonstop when you're not pooping after every meal, because your gut is producing alcohol. And then that alcohol is moving up your body to your organs and to your brain, right? So that flip side is that constipation. And I like to run this at the same time. Now, homeopathic remedies, here are some great ones.
Yeah.
You can go
Now we
ahead.
gotta get her to ring the bell. Yeah.
Can someone mute themselves, please? Can't tell who's talking. I'm going to stop share for a second, and then I'm going to share a different screen. And I'm going to show you what you can do here. So this is the bioresonance scanner. There are all sorts of different allergies. Let's just take allergies general. Okay. It's identified all of these general things. I can now scan, and it's going to reorder them into what is more important. So right now it's identified that Justica is more important for me. So it's really cool because I can come down here, and if it were on my phone, I could take homeopathic pellets and I could hold this in front of the scanner and I could imprint the pellets with that homeopathic remedy, and then you have the homeopathic remedy that you can take. So it's really nice because you can just flowers, mold, pet, anything you're allergic, not anything, most things you're allergic to are right there. So I love to use the homeopathics as well. And just because you're doing the imprint of one, you can also take the homeopathics as well, right? You can either take one that you purchased in the store, or you can take one that you actually made, and you can take it throughout the day as well. So that's kind of my my presentation part of it. I like to answer any questions you may have, but I am going to stop recording now so we can talk freely. Thanks for joining us.